I wore the green dress. He always said green was my color, said it made my eyes look like something worth looking at. I hadn't worn it in 2 years, still in the dry cleaning bag behind the winter coats. I don't know exactly why I put it on that morning. Maybe I wanted him to see it. Maybe I wanted to remind myself that I was someone before I was his. The party started at 7. I got there at 7:15. I want to tell you I was calm, and in the way that matters, the way that keeps your hands steady and your voice even. I was. But calm is not the same as okay, and I had not been okay for a long time. His name was Joel. We met when I was 26 and he was 30, and he had that particular kind of energy that feels like momentum. Like standing next to him meant you were going somewhere. He was charming and funny and certain about things in a way I found magnetic at the time. I understand now that certainty and confidence are not the same thing. We married when I was 28. By the time I was 30, the first business had failed. Not dramatically, just slowly, the way things bleed out when nobody is paying attention. He took it hard. Harder than I expected, and I did what I did, which was close ranks around him and make sure nobody outside our walls knew how bad it actually was. I paid the vendors he couldn't pay. I called the clients he couldn't face. I told our friends we were restructuring. I told my mother we were fine. I told myself it was temporary. The second business lasted 3 years before it failed too. By then I had a system. I knew how to manage the story, how to keep the right people from asking the right questions, how to make difficulty look like a choice. What I didn't know how to manage was the gambling. I found out about it the way you find out about most things you have been unconsciously avoiding, all at once, when it was too late to be gradual. A statement I wasn't supposed to see, a number that didn't make sense, and then an hour of looking at our finances with the kind of clarity that only comes when you stop hoping the answer is something else. $64,000. Over 18 months. Gone. I didn't tell anyone. Not my sister, not my best friend, not my mother, who had already quietly loaned us money twice and believed both times it was for the business. I absorbed it the way I had absorbed everything. Quietly, completely, alone. What I told myself was that I believed in him, and that was true. Even then, even looking at that number, I believed the man I had married was still in there somewhere, underneath the failure and the shame. I loved him. That's the part that's hardest to say out loud now. Not because it makes me look foolish, but because it was real. It was completely real. He got help, 18 months of it, and then slowly, carefully, he built something that actually worked. A consulting firm, small but profitable, built on a specialty he'd developed through all the failures. I watched him build it from the kitchen table. I made the coffee. I read the proposals. I told him which clients to trust and which ones to walk away from. I was there for every version of it. By year 11, I thought we had finally arrived somewhere worth being. I was wrong about that, too. He told me he wanted a divorce on a Sunday morning in March. No warning I had let myself see, no conversation that had been building toward it. Just coffee on the table, Sunday light through the kitchen window, and the end of 11 years. He said he'd been unhappy for a long time, that we had grown apart, that he thought we both deserved a chance to be truly happy. He used the word truly twice. I remember that specifically. I asked him if there was someone else. He said that wasn't the point, which was its own answer. I moved through the next 3 months the way you move through water. Everything slower, everything heavier, everything requiring more effort than it should. I filed the paperwork. I found an apartment. I divided 11 years into what fit in a moving truck and what didn't. I was sad. I was devastated. But I was not, yet, angry. Angry came on a Tuesday afternoon 4 months later when Joel's sister called me. Her name is Carrie. She was the one person in his family who had always treated me like I belonged there. She called me and she said, and she was crying when she said this, she said, "I need you to know what he's been telling people, because you deserve to know, and because it isn't right." He had been telling his family that I had never believed in him, that I had spent 11 years making him feel small, that every failure had been compounded by a wife who couldn't hide her disappointment, that he had built his success not because of me, but in spite of me. He was engaged. He had been seeing her for 8 months, which meant 4 of those months overlapped with our marriage. And he had rewritten 11 years of my life to make himself the hero of a story I had actually written. Carrie told me about the engagement party, the following Saturday, his mother's house. I went to my files. I have always kept files. It is one of my less charming qualities, and it has served me every single time. I pulled the bank statements from both business failures, the vendor payments in my name, the loan from my mother, repaid by me without Joel's knowledge or contribution. I pulled the gambling statements, all 18 months, the transfers I had made to cover what he couldn't, the single payment of $64,000 from my personal savings, money I had inherited from my grandmother, moved into our joint account on a Tuesday morning so the number would be there when it needed to be. I pulled the proposal drafts with my handwriting in the margins, the emails where I had connected him to the clients who became the foundation of the business he now ran, the business he had built, as he told it, in spite of me. I put everything in an envelope. I put on the green dress, and I drove to his mother's house. The party was exactly what I expected: string lights in the backyard, people I had known for 11 years, standing in clusters with drinks, doing that thing people do at parties, where they perform their own happiness. I saw him before he saw me. He was standing near the bar, with his arm around her, laughing at something someone had said. He looked like a man who had put something difficult behind him. And then he saw me. The laugh stopped. I didn't go to him. I went to his mother. I handed her the envelope. I looked at her directly, and I said, "Before tonight becomes a memory you can't take back, I think you should know what your son's success actually cost." And then I walked out. I sat in my car at the end of the street. My hands were shaking from the particular cost of doing something that cannot be undone, that you knew going in could not be undone, and doing it anyway. I still loved him. I want to be honest about that. I didn't walk into that party cured of 11 years. I walked in still carrying all of it, every coffee, every proposal, every morning I had made a choice to stay. I just also walked in knowing that love is not the same as permission. Carrie called me the next morning. Helen had read every page, had passed the envelope around the room. Joel's fiancé had left before the party ended. Helen had asked Joel to explain the gambling statements in front of everyone, and he hadn't been able to. I don't know what happened after that between them. I made a decision not to track it, not to check, not to ask, not to measure my healing against his consequences. That took practice. It still does. I spent 11 years making sure no one saw how hard things were, protecting his reputation, carrying the weight of his choices so he could keep walking upright in the world. He took all of that and used it to paint a portrait of a woman who had never believed in him. I showed up with the receipts, not to destroy him, not even really for justice. I showed up because 11 years of my life deserved a witness. And I was the only one left who could be that. I wore the green dress, and I didn't look back. Not even once.